Okay, so thanks for showing up. Sorry for the delay. I have to talk a little bit faster, I guess, for a few slides. Because I have a packed program with a demo that takes about 25 minutes, so we, of course, would like to see that ending successfully before the end of the show. So what are we going to talk about today? I will first introduce myself for a brief second. Mainly, of course, the name of the talk, how did I get from being very cynical about using Chef to being the one in the company forcing everybody to do everything with Chef. Demo time. We're going to build an external online savings bank someone here will build the bank for me by pushing the big red button, and I truly have a big red button. It's wireless, so I can walk up to you and somebody can just give a slam on it, and we will see hopefully a bank at the end of the session. Chef Guard, what is it? Why should I use it? Why should I want it? Do I want it? It's a tool we build in-house. We'll tell a little bit more about that one. Demo time again, really small demo about 1 or 2 use cases with Chef Guard and how does it look in practice. And by that time I hope that the bank is actually online and we can have a look at the front and the back end. So who am I? Sander van Harmelen, says on the card. 36, living in the Netherlands, married, have 1 kid. Before this job I had my own company, but I gladly joined Schubert Philips 6 years ago. And just a little note on Schubert Philips because it comes back in the presentation also. We are a company doing mission critical outsourcing, hence the name Mission Critical Engineer. Cool name, I must say. So that means that we do mission critical outsourcing. So we don't do big 10,000 end user desktops. We do those parts of your IT that really matter for your business. So online saving banks, for example. If the bank is down, yeah, that is quite some problem if you're an online savings bank. We have a big retailer, we have some trading floors, those are kind of customers are what we do. And we do that by dedicated teams of engineers working for a customer. So we have pretty distributed company where if you're in the team, you work a lot with your colleagues, direct colleagues within the team, but a lot less with people in other companies or in other teams. That will come back a little bit in the Chef Guard thing because that's one of the reasons we built that tool. Okay, so how? How did I get from being very cynical to using Chef? Well, I started out very cynical. There was a mail sent in, I don't know, it's readable, a little I guess. A mail sent in September 2012, just a few months before I actually touched Chef myself, to the whole company, tempering everybody from ho, let's not use Chef that much. Let's use it for configuration management maybe, but that's it. At the time we were looking at, with the other team, at new tools like Deploy It, like Nolio, real application orchestration tools to fill the gaps we saw. At that time we used TF Engine 2 on Linux and Blade Logic for our Windows host. And we were really looking into the next thing that could do both and that could offer a little bit more functionality. At the same time we had one of our customer teams working for an internal project, building our own mission critical cloud. We wanted to have an on-premises cloud to make elastic services available for our own customers. And they started using Chef because they had a need to fix stuff, and a lot of things that they needed were already there in Chef. So they thought, we as this team, you're entitled for each team to make your own decisions and your own design choices. So they chose to use Chef. So Chef was there, and then because it was there, other people thought, hey, maybe we can use it too. And hence this mail saying, okay, it is there, but let's use it for what it is for and not start using it like Blade Logic. We use Blade Logic for everything, but it's not really designed for that, so it became a mess to maintain and to do fun stuff with it. But then, once upon a time, I started using Chef myself actually. There was a POC, a government institution, had a little trouble with the website for a long time already. And they were looking for a company to do a POC to prove, one, is the platform that difficult or that hard to get correct? And two, they were doing it on IBM AIX and they wanted to do it on Linux, so they wanted to see their stack running on a Linux environment. The different types of machines in there were 15, security was 4. We did it in our mission critical cloud, which was just then released to production state. And our mantra for the whole company is do it right the first time and treat it like production. It is just a POC for a few weeks, but don't matter, don't take shortcuts, don't do things by hand, don't use Git, do the proper things you would do as if it was production. Then of course, few days, really steep learning curve. Didn't know any Ruby before. I know some other languages, but Ruby I didn't see before. Didn't touch Chef before. Did had a course 3 to 9 months before that from Mandy, from Chef, was at our office. But never touched it afterwards, so it was nice to have it, but the value was a little bit gone by then. So the few days really had first just go in there and do it. But I must say it was only a few days. And after a few days I was immediately surprised actually by the level of, oh, let's try this. Oh, works. Well, maybe if I do a remote file this and a template file that and then static service, try. Hey, it works. And that was really surprising. But Blade Logic was, oh yeah, that doesn't work with Blade Logic. You have to do it this way and that way. And fiddle, tweak. Yes, now it works. And it just worked. So it went pretty fast actually. After the first week, we could spin our machines, our cloud management machines with all the tools we need ourselves. And by the end of the second week, we already started seeing, or I was started seeing, well, this has potential. It works, it is easy, it is extensible. Let's try to do something more with it. Even though we had 6 to 8 weeks, why not try to push even more stuff in there? So the results of the POC, we managed to complete the POC within 7 weeks, so that's right in between the 6 to 8 weeks, so that was good. But we also did a smoke test in there. They had 285, I guess, smoke tests using Selenium, which we also tested and went through there. And we also did a load test. And of course, the POC environment was not scaled as production, but it should, in resemblance to each other, it should be able to cope with a certain load, and we also managed that one. Additionally, because with our current supplier, they had the difficulty that when they want to expand or they needed an extra server because there was peaks in the season, that took them way too long, a couple of days to get that actually in there and running. So I thought, well, if we have Chef and we can just build everything in here and manage it, why not make it elastic and make it see, oh, I want an extra server and spin up. And we did that, and we were able to scale within 18 minutes. And it was from an empty VM starting, all the tools on there. In this case, it was the portal, so Oracle portal, WebLogic, being member of the cluster, putting in the load balancer, really zero touch, one button, 80 minutes later, it was joining the farm, handling requests. And also in the load test, we did that to prove that it was able to horizontally scale out easily. So by that time, I was pretty reversed from being critical and tempering everybody to, hey, my own lesson learned, I did it in a corporate presentation as well. Try it first and only if needed, bitch about it later, because otherwise, like me, I bitched about it before, based on reading what it does, based on my previous knowledge from CF Engine and Blade Logic, and afterwards it turned out, maybe I shouldn't send that mail. But, enough said, let's build us a bank. And for that, and I spent, of course, don't do that, way too much time on the nice things than on the presentation itself. I will tell in a minute what we are actually going to start here. But because this runs for about 24 minutes, 23, 24 minutes, I think it's wise to first start it and then explain what we're actually doing here. Get me a sip of water. So who wants to press my big red button? Don't press it myself by accident. Anyone? Cares to come home and say, I build a bank in the... build a bank. You can go home and say, I did a hell of a job.
I feel like building a bank today. It's going to be really hard.
Boom.
That was easy.
And there, you broke it.
I did?
Try it again. I will actually let you do it again because otherwise it's not fun. It's a sensitive button.
It's a shame. I would like one.
Yeah, in Australia actually. We live in Europe, Australia is the other side of the world, and it turns out that they're the only one that actually built this one wireless, and it costs about $300 also. Doesn't make sense, but it is fun and it is cool. So you're now actually going to, and because I don't want to cheat, I don't like that, I asked, is there a network connection? They said, yeah, but you can also make a movie and then show the movie there. Ah, come on, we don't do that. We do the real deal. So in every slide from now on, you will see in the corner my chevron just continuing. So we can all watch if I get a wet pants here. Okay, so what did we just start? Just a few things before what we now lead up to it. What was the case, the use case? We got a new customer, and the customer has already real bank offices in the Netherlands, but it wanted to expand and wanted to make an online savings bank abroad. It didn't have it before, so we don't have to migrate anything. We don't have to any legacy. We could just have a greenfield set up and do it right from the first time. They got to us because the core banking software, the supplier, is the same party that we do business with for about 8 other banks that we already host. So they know that we know their software and we can work together nicely. So they said, well, maybe go talk to those guys and we can make your deadlines, because of course, like always, they had a pretty challenging deadline to make everything work on time for them. The core banking software, if a new release takes generally about 3 days, if everything goes well first time, and of course like today that hardly ever happens. Code consists of COBOL for the backend, for the core banking. That's actually from the 70s on developed and still is developed. So there's really old stuff, and it's all Java and the front end, the services for the back office and the customer side stuff. We compiled the COBOL ourselves. At the time when we first did business with them a year or 5, 6 ago, they didn't have good tools to manage and deploy their own software. And because we do 100% functional uptime SLA, we have one SLA, that's 100%. And it's not the server is running, but your application is running, so your bank is online, you can open an account. We said, well, okay, then we want to compile it ourselves with our own script, so we know what's in test, what's in acceptance, what in production. And a new release almost always means database updaters, because the COBOL is compiled against the database for metadata and parameter tables inside the database. So it's really a nasty application. Okay, so what we ended up with for this customer, small tip, is CloudStack. Our mission critical cloud is built with CloudStack for the build suite. So Jenkins has a build slave in the cloud. This particular customer also is actually in the same cloud. Not all customers are. Sometimes only test, some customers completely. Then we use Jenkins for the compilation of the whole stuff. And by this time, their own deployment tools were a little bit more up to spec. So we decided, okay, let's use your default tools, but let's manage it. So it's our Java server, Jenkins server, in our cloud with our base templates, hardened, which we use for production also. So that the chances are that if it builds here correctly, pretty sure that it will build for every environment. We use Jenkins, but Jenkins really more as an orchestrator, because what Jenkins does the most is use chef recipes for the executing the steps, building up the server until he can compile, because then actually Oracle has to be there, a database has to be run, a restore has to be done. So all that kind of stuff is done using chef recipes. And the rest, of course, is only chef. Building up the server, what it says here. All parts, Micro Focus for the COBOL part, JBoss, the core banking stuff itself, but it also does the actual database updates, database script execution. So, just as an example, one of the Jenkins jobs, it copies over some stuff to the correct directories, and then calls upon some jobs to, in this case, execute the TOS. The TOS are the database transfer files, so the update of the database. And of course, this is done using a built database that's not that large, only contains what needed. The same one as we use here for the demo. They wouldn't let me use their production for some reason. So, what are we building right now? This is actually the last part. I started out with, okay, like I said, I want to do the real deal. Push the button and do everything from scratch. And then that guy over there said, usually the network is not that reliable on a conference, and I thought, yeah, I noticed that once or twice. So let's do it on my laptop then. And I had a laptop like this, but with a little less memory. So I requested a new laptop with more memory. So it took me a day to get that one up to spec. And then I started pushing everything on here. Have a Fusion with a nested hypervisor, extend with CloudStack, with a chef server, with an admin server. And cool, it works. Started it. Okay, unless everybody wants to stay here 2 hours, it will never happen in time. Because it worked, but it gets that slow because of all the files that need to expand. And So I think, okay, forget it. Forget Cloud Stack, forget the nested hypervisor. It just has the base template as a VM directly on this machine. So that's what we just started. It was an empty CentOS machine with nothing in there, just minimal install next and next finish. That's it. And the Chef client, of course. So everything else is now done by Chef. And we see it here waiting, and I guess that it's doing something that takes a little longer. It's creating the actual database now. So it does already have now the Oracle installation that's patched also with OPatch and to the latest, not the latest, the 11.2.3.8, I guess. So it's now building. After it will restore the build database, and then it can deploy all the artifacts on it and configure it so it would end up in something like a bank. Okay, while that is running, we'll come back to that shortly, of course. ChefGuard. ChefGuard is a reserved proxy server that is written in Go and is located in between Nginx and AirChef. So it's all server side. Your clients do not know anything about this. The reason that we started looking at it is mainly auditability and monitoring of stuff that happens, because Chef does some monitoring, but it is not enough for us. We host banks, we host government institutions, so they are really keen on security and auditability, traceability. And yeah, it's not in the way we would like it. So we put in ChefGuard, and ChefGuard does a few things for us. Oh, first forgot the slide, but it's really cool. Another big thing, managing your applications or your audit trail is one. But sharing is, of course, a whole different problem. With the distributed teams we have, like I said before, people make a fork of a repo. We have a central repository where everything for the company is in. But then people fork it to make the changes for their customer, if needed. And then we ask them, okay, but soon do a pull request when you're done. Some people forget that. Actually, almost everybody forgets that. So what you see here is one cookbook that is, I think, 8 or 9 times forked. And you see someone, and I made the name go away, but of course my colleagues know probably who it is. Did a commit, and it's a fine commit, making something configurable, that's okay, cool. But then, hey, a little bit more than a month later, a different colleague from a different company or from a different customer team did exactly the same fix in a different fork. So, come on guys, we're doing stuff twice here. That's maybe we could use our time better. So what ChefGuard, that's one of the things ChefGuard mitigates, and I will show that in these coming few slides. So it does give you monitoring, like I said, it is inline before the API, so every change you make, if you do a knife node edit, if you go to the web GUI and do there some editing of the attributes or the run list, it doesn't matter how you do it, that's the freedom we want to give to our colleagues, just pick the tools you want. But as soon as you change it, it will say, hey, I get a request to change, give it to Chef server. If the result is, okay, I changed it, then it will commit it into Git under your name, and every API call is done by a person that authenticated, so you know who does it, so your audit is also okay. And I push it into Git. It does some testing. When you upload a cookbook, it does a food critic test and a rubocopy test inline. So, of course, I hope you did it before when developing the cookbook, but again, a few do, but the most don't. Including myself sometimes, I have to admit. But we do it for you. So as soon as you upload it, and it will check, and if it's not passes the checks, it will give you a native arrow back, regardless of the tool you use, saying, hey, you filled some prerequisites, please fix them and try again. And of course we build in 3 modes, it's silent, permissive and enforced. Silent, you don't see it, but we monitor it in the back. Permissive, you see it, but min force helps you to get past it. And enforced is, you really have to fix it, I don't let it in. Yeah, that's what I just said. At the same time that you can bypass tests with min force, we disabled the option to override a frozen cookbook using min force. The cookbook version 1 is cookbook version 1. And if you want to change it, then it's 1.1, not or 2 or whatever, but not 1, because 1 is always, you froze it. So you said, this is something I want to freeze, this is a version. Then that shouldn't change, in my opinion. It does graphite, so every cookbook that's uploaded is a tick to graphite. Every cookbook that fails is a tick to graphite with the test what it failed on. Every cookbook that has uploaded with min-force is a tick. So if in the end you see a line with failed cookbooks and see the same line with min-force uploaded cookbooks, you can talk to people from, hey, why don't you fix it so the line goes down? Why just do min-force all the time? And then maybe turn your permissive mode into enforced mode, so they have to fix it. Okay, what else? As soon as you upload a cookbook and you depend on something, so, or you change a constraint in the environment, you say cookbook version A cookbook A version 1 is now the version we use in this environment. Then it goes and checks to see if that cookbook is actually frozen. Because if it's not frozen, then how can you depend on it? Because you don't know the state of the cookbook. And if you want to freeze it, it does the real magic. It goes to talk to the Bookshelf API to find out where is it. Is it a Unity cookbook? Is it hosted on premises? Then gets that cookbook and there's a diff to see if that version that you're uploading is really the version that is also in Git and tagged in Git or at the Opscode community site. So this pretty much closes the loop that even that all distributed teams doing their own stuff and have their own freedom to use whatever they want for tools, that you are sure that if they build something cool, that it is given back to our central repo before they actually start using it. And that prevents that people are doing the same stuff over and over again. It's the only way, I guess, to see that. This is a commit done by Chef Guard. So that is really just if you do a knife node edit or environment edit, whatever, exactly what you see there, that is exactly what he saves in Git for you. Hooray, it works. And I will show that, oh, not that, that. Just as a little example how that will look. I have a cookbook here that is, of course, really simple, which I just made the test one in the bottom. And if I try to upload that, which of course is not okay. Blop. It errors out, precondition failed, food critic error found, and the errors that it is. So it also helps your colleagues to make their work better, because it will just show you here, hey, have a look at these food critic items, and then you go online, search them up, and learn a bit of it. Oh, okay, I can do that smarter or better or different. And of course, you can remove stuff that you think, that's not adequate for us. Or you can add stuff that you say, that's not something in the community, but we want that every template has this header. We check it. And so that's pretty cool. At the same time, if I do an edit, yeah, then you should know how it's called. This is the Chef server I'm using for this demo. So I just do that change to the UI. Now, currently, without this tool, we said you cannot use the UI. If you use the UI, nobody knows who did what. There's no backtracking, the JSON files that you edit locally and do an upload from, you can save those in Git. But this you cannot save, so yeah, now we can, luckily. If I go here, environment, and I edit something in here, it doesn't really matter what. Let's not do a constraint because it will check more. Demo something else. Save. And since I seem to have network, okay, I don't see if they have network. That's okay. In our internal web GitHub Enterprise, you should see now this commit on top of the other. I can do that later if we have time and if people are interested in seeing that. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm talking faster than I did when I practiced it, that's for sure. Because I'm still busy and I had less time, or I was short on time when I tested it. So how much time do I have? Let me see. Since time permits, I'm just logging in so you can see the actual commits here. Okay. So now you say, hey, but it didn't say something else. No, you're right. Because it doesn't have network, so it couldn't reach it. Now then? No. Shame. Okay, I'll trust it. It still is a demo, thank God. Imagine that everything works. What else should we do? Okay, so this is taking longer than expected, but so I'm pretty much through my talk, but I will of course want to see this, and I guess you do. But I guess I'll just leave it running, and don't know if people have questions or want to know stuff about the setup. Yeah.
Open source chef guard.
Yep, we sure are. It's still in a beta and testing phase for ourselves. Yeah, we did. It is actually quite cool. It is configurable till the bone. So we have different customer teams, and they all have their different use cases. So we cannot say silent for everybody or permissive for everybody, but we can do it per organization. If using Chef Enterprise, if using there's also a switch to say I'm using private Chef Enterprise, or I'm using open source. So it's capable of doing both, depending on what you are using with your company. And oh, yep.
So this shows a full deployment, right, from
Yep.
the very beginning.
Yep.
Do you ever find yourself having a need for partial deployments or hotfixes?
How do you mean?
So
What we do in production actually, the test server and the build server, every release are completely built up from scratch. In production we don't always do that, and that's mainly because the database is pretty darn big, and it's not that easy to just throw everything away or disconnect the LUNs, and it will also take time. So in that case we do just the RPM, the artifacts. We change the build numbers in the chef attributes, start it, and it will only do those artifacts that are changed.
So in your chef client run, you just actually have a dedicated recipe for updating the...
It's actually the same recipe, only it's smart enough to know what to do, what to skip. And it's almost everything are lightweight providers. So they have their own logic of checking what state it is currently in and what needs to be done to get. If you say install, it will check, okay, it's installed, but what version is installed now? And then, yeah, it will only do the steps needed. Yeah, that, why? I will never do a demo again. I thought I was different. I thought I could manage it, but I cannot. Manage best. It really sucks. I don't know what it is, and I cannot scroll up in my cool embedded no VNC browser thing stuff. So I have no clue what to do. I can start. No, that doesn't work in the. It's HTML5. Try again. I pushed the button myself. Sorry. Bad gateway. Oh, that's. Yeah. Something with a reboot I need to do. No airspace, but it is dead. Like I said, it's sort of beta still. And I didn't have that I did it only this morning. I added it so I could show it live, giving an error back. Now it bites me in the ass, of course, as usual with editing stuff last minute. now it's trying to restore. Can I say the fuck word? Just did.
It's made for these moments.
For people who want to bear with me, I will fix this. And I'll do it in slides, this one. No, the other way around, this one. Recipes. Because normally we don't do the restore of the database in our recipe, because it's only done by the Jenkins service and not by production service, because it's only a build database. In this case, I added it in here, assuming that it would work in one time, which it of course didn't.
So I have a quick follow-up question.
Oh, no, yeah. Kill me! Yeah, please save me.
Just real quick. So, like you've seen, it takes a very long time, even if you don't restore the database. Do you ever find yourself trimming the recipes or running separate recipes to reduce your chef run duration? Because I've noticed in your Jenkins shop, you do chef client minus O.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you specify
yeah.
a very specific
Correct.
run list.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you would ever do that, and is it recommended?
Yeah, I don't know why you shouldn't. We use the difficulty is we use roles, cookbook roles, so that we don't use the default chef roles. And the difficulty there is that then your attributes are in a cookbook, and so you always have to specify that role, even if you want to have another recipe, because it will be dependent on those recipes. So your default should always do nothing, otherwise it will bite you in the ass. But we do use it, and for having this is now all in one server, or it was supposed to be all in one server. But if you want to do it distributed over multiple servers, that is probably a good way to tell other servers to do something, to call just a single recipe to that server. I thought to understand that Chef Pushy is also trying to look at something like that, to be able to have a resource do a notify on a different server. That's more or less the same thing than just executing one, not a complete run, but a single recipe or resource.
I have a question as well. What fires off the Jenkins job? Like when new commits come in for a cookbook, or
In this case, it's not a cookbook. It's the COBOL code for the bank, actually. So the core banking software or something in the Java code. Yeah, correct. They have some, of course, they have some local versioning stuff. So during development, they're committing it only local. But when they say, okay, this is a version, they push it to our version control, and that triggers the Jenkins job.
do you guys do tests like the test kitchen on the individual cookbooks and make that go to Jenkins as well?
Yeah, we're working on that. I just talked with another speaker which had the perfect tools for doing that street, actually. So I said, well, let's team up. We have the Chef God. You are doing some nice things here. If glued it together, you have the whole thing end to end, I guess. So there is some space in there. Chef God doesn't do it. That we do. Yeah, we do some stuff ourselves. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I will just remove Chef God from the equation. Make my life a little bit easier. know someone who's going to watch this video and laugh his ass off. I think I know a few actually. Yeah.
I think I know the company.
Cool. So, any other takers? Yes.
So since you mentioned that chef bar is only on the server side, and in the demo we did night upload, so can we make it also work with Bergs?
Yes, it does work with Bugs. It doesn't matter which tool you use, because also Bugs uses the API, so it also talks to Nginx on your server, which talks to AirChef, and it's in there between what you just saw in the config file. We just, those endpoints, we reroute them to our own server, which then passes it through. Oh, sorry, the question was if you can also use Bugshelf. In my example, I used Knife. So the question was, does it matter which tool you use, actually? It doesn't matter. You can use everything you want. In the end, it will talk to the Chef API, and it's there that we take in the call. So indeed, Bugs does work already, yeah, native. Anyone else? No? Okay. I let this running for the people who want to see that it works, because it does, and it's cool. Nobody believes me anymore, of course. Thanks, man.